Hi class, let's start chapter 2. I think by now you looked at the videos that I attached for you and examples that you saw, and you feel that, a little bit more understanding of what's in marketing and how the marketing environment works out. By the way, this is the book, and I would like to start chapter 2. Look at the things that I've attached before you see this lecture. So in chapter 2, what we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the marketing environment. So we learned a little bit about the marketing and the 4Ps, and price, promotion, place, and product class. This class will be learning about the marketing environment and how it works, what things we have to take into consideration when we set up our marketing activities. Now, the objective of this chapter is really to learn the things like one, explain the importance of a marketing environmental scan and how it's used to improve the marketing program that you have. Also, we're going to describe the elements of an environmental scan inside them, what is this element, and summarize the trend that affecting each area. We will be outlining the current demography. We'll talk a lot about demography and socio-cultural influence that affects the marketing approach. And also we'll explain how changes in the economic environment from a micro level and macro level influence the consumer purchase behavior. We'll discuss the technological development that's shaping the current marketing practice. We're also going to describe the different form of competition, what kind of competition in the market, so we can set up our marketing campaign accordingly, and the regulatory forces and regulation that shape the marketing industry. And also we'll list the steps in the marketing environment scan. You notice that the Canada Post capitalized on e-commerce trend recently, and reason for that, because the focus on parcel and direct marketing due to the Canadian mailing is 1.6 billion fewer pieces of mail. So they mail less now. And the second thing, in the old days, when we used to get an email, we would be very happy. And if we get a mail, we're not excited about it. These days, it's changed for us. If we get a mail in the mailbox, we're so excited about something that we can touch. And when we get a 20, 30 emails, we're not excited about it. So the trend is changing. So here in Canada, Canadians mailing less at a rate of 1.6 billion mail. Lots of electronic mails is happening. The postal address grew up by 1.5 million. So there is a growth in the postal addresses and there is less in mailing. The parcel delivery competition, a huge parcel delivery. There are so many companies, UPS, Canada Post, Amazon, all they do parcel deliveries. The volatile spending level keeps going up and down, and people own the mail and all these things. And there is the growth of internet. So that's all how made Canada Post being forced to capitalize on the e-commerce trend right now. So the marketing environment has 6 areas that we will analyze each one of them. One is the demography or the demographic era, socioculture. We'll talk about economics, the technology or the technology that involve into that, the competitive environment that we are dealing with, and the regulatories. And these 6 areas affecting our marketing environment and the decision how we're going to do the marketing. Now, so basically, we need to do, first of all, an environmental scan, noting and responding to the change in the 6 areas that we mentioned can result in more effective marketing programs. So we need to notice to see the changes in the trends and things that's changing with these 6 areas in order to have a better, effective marketing program and marketing plan. So successful marketing program must reach out and address these changes and capture the new opportunity in the marketing place. We have attached a file. You can use it. You see it on the SWOT analysis on YouTube, and it stands for SWOT analysis. Is helping us to really assessing how well a company is serving its business and consumers from the point that what is our strength and where is our weakness and where is the opportunity located and what is the threat. So if you notice, 2 things is internal here, which is our strength and our weakness. That means we have an option, we work on our strength or we try to mitigate our weakness. That's internal. External is the opportunities and the threat. We need to look at it. What is the opportunities for our business? And what's the threat? What is the competition? What is the regulatories will enforce us to be limited in this case. So we always do the SWOT analysis, and I attach a SWOT analysis example for Tesla. Please take a look at it. We used to set the future direction for the business. The other thing that we need to do, so when we're building our marketing plan, we need to first look at the SWOT analysis. The second thing that we're looking at is demographic forces. And in the demographic forces is basically understanding insurers. It is the marketing efforts are well placed. So do we have a really good marketing effort? And if we do have real marketing, is it well placed? So there's 2 sections you need to know. And is there any opportunity that we are overlooking at it? For example, are we targeting the right sectors, or we are just doing it in general? And is there different opportunity that we are not really targeting? And we can help finding out, one of the tools that can help us to find out is the Statistic Canada, which is in here as an example, what in 2016 census. You know, Canada, they do a census, so they see how many, what's the population, their age, male, female, all these things, the ethnic background, and get these information ready for the macro policies, political reasons, and also for helping the private businesses really to understand the market. So here what we're seeing in Canada, we look at, Canada Census, we're looking at aging population, we look at diverse generations, we look at the settling in a large cities, moving from small city to larger cities. And we also look at the ethnical mixed, which is if you came 20 years ago or 25 years ago to Winnipeg, visible minority, it was really minority. You cannot see a visible. Right now, the number is growing very rapidly. So in the demographic forces, and we will talk when the ethnical thing is changes, what effort we need to do and what kind of products we can bring and start marketing. But back to demographic forces, which is an aging population that we are looking at, is in the G7, which is the 7 great countries that produce the leaders, the percentage of over 65 years in the G7. In Japan, is like a 25% almost. So every 4 people, there is 1 person over 65. In Germany is a 21. In Italy is a 21. And in Canada is almost 17. And the lowest is USA. The aging population, a trend shared by many countries. Now, why do we need to know about the aging population? On a government level, they need to know because when the people moving to 65 years and above, they become, they need some support, more support, a different kind of housings, all these things. From a marketing point of view and from sales, with the aging, there is a new product comes in, like a wheelchair, more vitamins, more pharmaceutical products, something get matched to the aging. And then once we find what's the aging, we need to see what is the trend of wealth, who has that wealth that we can target the right aging with the right product. So the trend, the G7 here, we can see that there is showing a trend in the aging. Now, in Canada, estimated by 2035, more than 10 million Canadians are over the age of 65. 10 million, that's a big number to target as a business-wise for the older people. In other words, it could be a market just you targeting the older world, whether in the field of IT solution or in the field of food or pharmaceutical. These are all products that you can target these people, and usually they are in a better wealth situation when they have a stronger purchase power. Sometimes. Now, after the 65 years, here is what we are looking at. There is different generation, and each generation has different interests in a way. You have the baby boomers, which is they were born exactly after the Second War. Now these guys are now in the aging, and they used to have lots of job opportunity, and usually they generated lots of revenues and easily to find a job, and they saved lots of money, and usually they own houses and all. So these are the baby boomers. Then after them came the poor one, the sad case, which is the Generation X. The Generation X, it has a different generation where these people are usually born in the area before the internet and technology, and they grow up in the area of the technology. So they are aware of the both situation, how to do the marketing, whether they targeting baby boomers through not technology or targeting the next generation, which is the Y and the G generation. Now in the G generation or the Y generation, we have what you call the millennials generation, and they come after the X generation, and they are now in the 30s, they're going to be in 30s. And then you have the Generation Z. So we need to know which generation we are targeting, because if you notice here, for example, how well do you really know your generation? How well do you know your generation Y versus Generation Z here? And the Generation Y probably they're more, they're into cool products. And the Generation Z, they are more into experience. So cool products, maybe they will have product that's really cool, nice gaming. It's cool to have that nice game. But in the Generation Z, they want more experience, not only cool product. But how many of them are into branding games? In the Generation Y, you find the 22% of them into branding game, and Generation Z is in 31%. So there is the differences between each generation. I assume the guys in Generation X, they're less into the branding games, and then you get the baby boomers who are not even into the branding games at all. So you know who you're targeting when you have a branded games. Mostly it's going to be a Generation Z, maybe Generation Y, millennials. So that's how the marketing trend and diverse generation affect the business. Now, the other thing that demographic forces that you look for is that we've seen that the fastest grow G7 countries at 1% only. And each province and territory grew within Canada, except New Brunswick and non-native leading the way. Other reason, people in the New Brunswick, when they come in, they move away, or themselves, the people in New Brunswick, they don't do that much. They don't offspring, they don't generate the second more kids. But the only thing that we sustain the growth in Canada is by boosting the immigration. And you notice the Canada accepting investor for boosting the business and investing the young and accepting young generation, because the young generation will be working here and pay taxes and sustain the wealth of Canada. Western Canada is more rapidly because they're closer to China and Japan, and we had more people there, growth happening there. So these are the big city growth that affect the business. Now, also we're talking about ethnic diversity. We've noticed, as I said in the beginning of this lecture, in the old days when I was in Winnipeg, visible minority was a really minority. You don't see a visible minority. When I walked in the street of Main Street or in Winnipeg downtown, with having a little bit darker skin and curly hair, people looked at me. In Thompson, there was it was a big issue having one dark skin there. Now, when you walk in Winnipeg, it's normal to see people here. Also, it's normal to see people from different ethnic background. You don't feel they are different than the rest. They could be the Chinese background, Oriental background, Indian background, Arab background. So the ethnics became very diverse, and that's changed our marketing trend. And you notice that here in the picture that Loblaw have bought TNT Supermarket purchase, which is written in an Oriental language. We see that currently Safeway in negotiation with a supermarket, which is, they are into Middle Eastern and Mediterranean food, and they are targeting that part of it. So multicultural mix create an interesting array of the opportunities to marketeer, and also create some challenges to understand what ticks and what doesn't tick for them. Anyway, Canada is a pride itself on being a multicultural country. And if you notice, GTA or Toronto, the most diverse city in the world. Now, when we look over a macro level, We noticed that the growth, there is 7.4 billion and things is moving up. Opportunities for foreigner expansion is a huge. The 5 largest countries is China, India comes in, United States, the 3rd, and the Indonesia and Brazil. This is based on the population, but if you look at the based on the individual income is different. If you look at the GDP is different than GNP and then different than the population. So as a marketeer, you need to differentiate between all these details, which is we will be talking about them maybe in the later chapters. So changing here household compositions, dominant household structure is now could be 1-person household, and this is getting to be normal in Canada, and it's driven by the aging population. 2 people, maybe his wife died, or a lady that her husband died, so made of 1 person. Maybe because of the economic independence, an increase in separation and divorce rate. These are all contributed to dominant household structure, which was 1%. So you see, they are can target security houses, companies that provide security for housing. They can target these kind of houses. You know, there was a commercial that were for helping an older people to get and notifying the ambulance or the police or that by having a remote that they can put it on their neck. This is a trend that's happening. So as a marketeer, you need to watch all these change in the trend. There is an increase we see in couples without children. So basically, you cannot target a couple for diapers because they don't have children. There's lots of common law relationship, which is, and then you have the same-sex couples and multi-generational families that's made of grandfather, father, children, and grandchildren. They could be in one house living together. So all these things can help to understand how the demographic forces works in the marketing. Then we have what you call the socio-cultural forces. The socio-cultural forces is the cultural values, is the ideas and attitude, as well as the society, moral and beliefs. From a country to another country is changes. See, we have an expression, we have a thinking that, for example, in Canada, or in any Western country, if you see somebody attacking a covered lady with a hijab or somebody wearing a turban, you see people are defending them. The matter of fact, why they defending them? When you ask them why you defend, do you believe in that? They go, no, we don't believe in that, but we do believe in the freedom of expressions. And wearing a hijab or wearing a turban is a free part of the freedom of expression. So a marketeer, when he sees something like that, he has to dig in of the reason behind these people are helping and supporting these. Is you cannot sell a Western person a hijab or a cloth or turban just because he defended a Middle Eastern woman wearing a hijab. But you can sell him or market the product that creates personal freedom for him. You see lots of cars advertisement, which is especially in the truck, that gives you the freedom to go into the jungle and drive around with it. That's what the value is, the personal freedoms and the moral there. So they tend to be gradual. These things, these changes in the culture, you don't see them sudden happen unless there is a war or a disaster or something happen, or just like what we have in the case of COVID, which is everybody start wearing face masks. These are kind of subtle adjusting sometimes. And you need, as a marketeer, to see these gradual and subtle changes to get ready for the future. If you don't want to, sometimes you notice that you left a place for a year or two, and you came back and you saw a different value there or a different culture. And if you ask the people, they said, tell them this things happen. They don't recognize these things happen because they lived in that. But people who goes out and come back again after a while, they can notify that. But as a marketeer, you need to keep looking at that and understand these changes that's happening. One of the things that with this situation, for example, you can look at the set of things happening, which is, I explained it probably in the last chapter, is the fact that companies start moving to online businesses with this, online collaboration, online meeting, online businesses. Now, then there is a subtle thing. You will see growth in data. If there is if you have a solution for data, you see there is a growth of making phone calls or getting into chatting in the company. So you rather to have a team of people who respond on the chatting, or you at least, to minimize it, you create kind of an artificial intelligence for your marketing campaign. So these are the issues that might happen suddenly or move slowly without you knowing. So these are monitored by the marketeers to capitalize on a new opportunities. Now, as you notice, the media is moving in very quickly, and especially the social media, and due to the devices, and now people don't watch channels anymore. They do watch channels on YouTube mostly, and the cable TV is going. The trend of the cable TV is going down, but you will see that people are more utilizing things like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Princeset, and the list goes on. And there is an issue here. You need to look at the trend where the people are using, what the people are using, so you can market there. But also when it comes to the lower case, you need to know who is on Facebook versus, for example, who is on LinkedIn. So you understand how you're going to set up your marketing campaign online. You also need to know the difference between the strategy of Facebook versus the YouTube, for example, or the Pinterest or LinkedIn. So you can do some kind of search engine optimization, which is SEOs. There is now teams getting developed for SEOs. There's things like a pay-per-click. They can send you lots of contacts, which is, you can buy contacts from Google or Facebook and start marketing to them, or you can grow your customers or client generically. So there is options, but you need to understand the strategy of which application you're working on and how you're supposed to utilize it in that sense. That's the media. And you need to know what devices is used. There's the Google analytical tools. For example, you can always utilize them to know what time people are coming to your website or coming to your advertisement. and how long they staying, where they go after that, when they come to your website, at what stage they're gonna use, and where they jump out or they jump into buy. There's all these tools available for you that you can do a marketing analysis for it in order to do a more effective marketing campaign online. So these are the information are very important. We might end up getting one assignment in this field for you guys. Now, the assignment probably comes in 2-3 weeks down the road, not now, so don't worry about it. I will let you know. There is also socio-cultural forces, food consumption. You know, for example, in the old days, people loved going to McDonald's. Now, what happened is people start seeing that McDonald's, for example, not healthy. So McDonald's changed the trend, start providing also salad bars, healthy food. And that's they changing because they found out the new generation is not interested to consume fast food. So we see also increasing concern about what they eat, clarity of definition, switching from processes, food, and you notice in the ad here, gluten-free everywhere, bread's gluten-free, spaghetti is gluten-free. So these are very important for lots of consumers that the product they're getting is a gluten-free. There is an ethnic more mainstream happening. So for example, za'atar or hummus or falafel really becomes a household food and ready to eat fresh meals. And we notice that there is companies who really send you a fresh meal and you can cook them and eat them right away. Now, in socio-cultural force, also there is a healthy living. This has always been, people wants to be having a healthy living, but you will notice there is more effort now. People wants to do a healthy life. There is an ever-increasing consumer interest in maintenance and improve the healthy. And this is why you see Fitbit, a lot of activities that it can help you to arrange, monitor your activities, eating and sleeping partners. Now, one of the things that we developed is a long time ago is mobile diabetes. And the reason we searched in the market and we found out in 2030, 50% of population is diabetic. So we thought if we develop an application in that time that connect diabetic people with the doctor and with the food that they are eating, it would be very profitable, which is we did a proof of concept, and others, they came in the market also start competing with us, and they probably, because they were in the USA, we were in the Middle East, we were less exposed, they were more exposed, and helped a lot of diabetic people go online now. So the healthy living is very important. The ethnical consumption, Canadian most likely to recycle now. We have a supermarket open beside us in Oshawa where they don't give you, they sell you in the beginning a recycle bag, a bag made of wood that you can wash it, and they don't give you plastic bags anymore. And the Canadian now most likely to recycle by use or pre-owned goods and use their own bags when they are shopping. So retailers, they had to, or they want to adopt the green aisles. Now we go on the stage of economic forces, whether in the field level of micro or a macro. So the marketeers need to recognize how the economy affects the purchase behavior of their target market. When there is a booming, which is you call upswing, increase in the spending, people have a confidence, there's business, there's a booming, people can increase their spending. In the downswing, there is a delay, some cancellation is happening. You need to monitor that. The Canadian are more, in the case of market in Canada, Canadians are more cautious with their spending, and they're focusing on paying down the debt. So in the Americans is different. They're more into spending and having a very, glamorous things. On a Canadian wise, as a culture and their neighbor, they speak the same language, almost. But you see, the cultural thing is a different in Canada. And in Canada, they will do more. They're trying to paying down the debts, where the Americans, they could care less about the paying down the debt majorities. So the spending is higher in USA than in Canada, for example. Now, in the macro level forces, we said that state of the country economic as a whole, the macro, and we look at basically at the key economic indicator, like the growth of GDP, which is gross domestic product, individual, how much it has been growth. We also look at the GNP, but mostly in the GDP for a marketing point of view. We look at the inflation, and the reason we look at the inflation, because if the inflation higher than the salary raise that this person is getting, or this group, end of the year or end of the day or whatever, his purchase power will be less. But if the rate of the inflation less than increase of his salary, his purchase power will do much better. So this is why we look at the inflation rate from a marketing point of view, because we need to know the purchase power of our target customer. We also look at the employment rate on a level of macroeconomic. So how many people are employed, whether we want to target the employment or the unemployment, that's another issue. But we need to know how the levels of the employment. And as we said, the customer confidence index, it's an index that shows by the government. You can get it in the business report in the news or economics report in the news, how much people feel confident about the consumption. That's a very tricky one. Let me give you an example. Iran and Lebanon, they both went through a war. Now, when you talk about to the Iranian, the level of consumer confidence after the war went down. In Lebanon, went up. They both had a war. So what's happened to the Iranian? Iranians start saving more and spending less. On the other hand, because they said there is tomorrow is a war, maybe there is another war, so let's save money for tomorrow. On the other hand, Lebanon, what they did is, because tomorrow there is a war, so if we save today, we're going to lose it because of our banking system and all these things. Let's spend what we have and borrow, and let's put the risk on the back of the shoulders of the government or the banks. And they start spending more. So these are the two reactions after the war in Lebanon and Iran. Probably another example in India, if you notice, the savings size of money from the work, culturally probably you need to save, and spending on gold and all these things is depend on how much confident you are in, and this is what you call the confidence index, consumer confidence index. But overall, on the micro level now, directly, which is referred to the supply and demand of goods and services, on how this is impacted on the individual, such or household or a company decision to purchase. Overall, an income or the gross income, the total income, first part of it goes to the taxes. If you notice here in the graph, That's the first part of it goes to the taxes. What's remaining becomes disposable income. And the disposable income after the tax, usually you have to pay for the shelter, housing, rent, or whatever. You need to pay for your food and the clothing. And that comes out from your disposable income. And then what you have, what you call a discretionary income, which is you pay it on the vacation and jewelries. Why do we differentiate? Put it this way. If a household or individual, all his income spending it on the disposable income, which is became a disposable income, and all his income is spent on the shelter, food, and clothing. So there is not much remain for his discretionary income from his saving, where he can buy gold or he can go on a vacation. So you see some people, for example, they do save money to buy gold in India, but some of them who cannot really save money, which is that called a discretionary income, so they cannot buy gold. And in North America, the traveling or in Middle East, because there is a part that they saving, they can spend it on jewelry. So you can market your jewelries in places where they have a discretionary income after the disposable income is done. Now we come to the technology and technological forces that we've been through and we're going through. You know, there was nothing, then radio started, then TV, then, you know, internet started a little bit. And, you know, before the internet, we have telephone and people do marketing on the telephone, do advertisement on TV, and then move to the technology. And it depends where the customer is shifting. You as a marketer has to target them there. Otherwise, if you're targeting them in somewhere else, they're not going to be there. So the Canadians seems seamlessly usually without they move from one device to another smoothly without making a big issue. So you need as a marketer have a very keen eyes to look at that. The consumer want consistent interaction with the brand. And I put you the video there, is you are in love with the brand that you are buying. You're not buying the brand for the brand. You are buying it because it makes you how you feel. And when you're in love with your wife or your husband, is because it is about how he or she makes you feel. And this is an ultimate way of thinking for marketing. You need to, make your consumer feel something when they are getting your brand. That's what makes it special. And then, and you can see it in the video that I attached also as the marketers need to understand the online consumer behavior. Things is changing. When I'm on online, I can flip between lots of ads. Which ads will stop me to look at which one is depend on my interest. It's a different than TV when you sit there through a commercial ad waiting for the next part of the movie or the game start. Here, they cannot enforce the person to watch the ad, and he can flip between them. And even sometimes ad shows up in a YouTube, after 5 seconds, you can click skip ad. By clicking skip ad, they understand what's your interest and where's your interest also. So these are things that you can find, understand online consumers' behavior. Now, we spoke earlier about, tracking them, which website they go, and at which page of the website they jump out or they jump in, they continue, where they stop, all these information you need to know, and when they hit your purchasing order. So further, as each a new wave of technology can replace the existing product, and the companies need to be aware of the technological change to ensure that the product do not become obsolete. It's basically, if you start just putting your ads on TV for whatever computer, a new mobile or a new laptop, you might risking of the obsolete because people who watch TV might not be very keen to buy a new laptop. Marketers need to know how consumers are integrating technology into their life. In the old days, there was a phone, a rotating phone, and a pressing phone, and we had the mobile coming in, and voila, all these phones gone, the landline, and now it's a mobile. So promoting your landline in the hotel is not a big deal anymore because in the old days, um, every room, beside renting the room, hotels were thinking that they can generate around the $1,200 from the landline that available in the room. Now that $1,200 is around $120 per year, and instead of $1,200 per year revenue generated for the hotels, and because everybody's using line mobile. So things is changing, and a marketer should notify these changes. Now, if you're into the hotel business and trying to market that you have a landline inside your room and you can give first 10 minutes free, nobody cares really. So you need to be understanding what takes people to come to your hotel and not going to the next hotel. And they start giving, for example, the free internet connections. Okay, so that's one of the things. So influx of a new device, there is internet access, there is the e-commerce, which is a wonderful thing. We'll talk about how we can generate business from e-commerce. Cloud-based services, there is what you call a privacy, music you can download, online videos, computers, smartphone, tablets, trackers, and mobile payment. All these things has affected our way of living. So marketers are challenged to keep up with the technology advancement. I was involved in a big business of MVAS, which is called Mobile Value Added Service. So we put a small M in the front, but then VAS, which is Value Added Services. So these are things that as a technology, you need to keep a track whether these things is changing and how fast they are changing. Then you need to look at your competitive forces. Marketer must monitor the competitive activity of the product that compete head to head with its brand. So whether Adidas, how it's competing with Nike and where, and in what occasion, or vice versa of the Pepsi, or the Pepsi, how it's competing with cola, and vice versa, where, how it's done. That's important things that direct and indirect competition to look at them. In the competitive spectrum, you need to look once again in the major environment, and then on a macro level, you need to look at the marketeers need to have a clear understanding of the competitive nature, what kind of nature of the industries they are functioning. For example, if you are in monopoly, one firm is taking over all the business, so you won't have any access to that business because it's a monopoly. So you probably need to market your products or solution to the monopoly runners or owners in order to go with their umbrella. But maybe you have in a country which is an oligopoly in that business or the country or whatever, and there is only a few items, example like airlines, example like mobile operators, There is oligopoly, just a few of them, and monopoly. Probably you look at the electricity, so you cannot sell electricity directly, but you can outsource, sell them equipment, or say, I'll buy from you and I'll sell it, but one provider, and that we said there is a oligopoly. And there is a monopolistic competition. Many firms, and they have a similar products, like running shoes, for example, Nike and Adidas. And then you have the perfect one, which is the best example here in saying, talking about many firms, identical products, everybody produces the same thing. All the firms are producing the same Apple, and that you need to look. Each will help you to strategize your marketing plans and marketing activity when you're targeting there. The last thing you need to look at is the regulatory and regulation forces. You notice that there's rules and regulations that influence how you market and how you do your marketing campaign. There is lots of them now. You have to be aware of them, which is I will talk about the next slide about the PDA and do not call and all these things. But in the regulatory forces is basically protect consumers from unscrupulous business practice, bad ones, set the acceptable standard of practice, encourage the fair competition, ethical business practice should be followed to avoid consumer backlash and negative publicity. I can give you one example about the hot coffee case with the old lady in McDonald's when her son bought her a hot coffee. He gave her in the early morning. It was so hot, she had to drop it and had a second degree, or I don't know, third degree burning. She had to go to the doctors. In there, she went back. A very nice lady. She told them, well, can you pay the bills of the burning? They refused it, rejected that, and then she got angry and took them to the court. And there, where she proved that the hot coffee without any sign on it or notification or marketing protection, they sold her a very hot coffee and caused a burn on her body and causing. That's the real story. What the marketeers and marketing of McDonald's did showed that lady is a vicious lady who is trying to put her hand in a deep pocket like McDonald's and take that money out of them and suing them on their kids. So they switched the story to look better. So there is lots of effort happens to take that idea from the head of the people to make McDonald's is one of the favorite corners to eat at it. So the regulatory groups in Canada, you run to Advertising Standards Canada, you probably need to click there and see how they work. ASC, you have the Competition Bureau, you have the Consumer Bureau, which is not here, but the Competition Bureau, that you need to compete on a fair base. And you have other things like CRTC, the Canadian Radio, Television, Telecommunication. We talked about DNCL, do not call list, very important list when you're working in a marketing department and you have to make phone calls or advertisement to call people. You get the list of do not call list, and if you call them, they might sue your company. So as an individual, I can put my name part of the do not call list. But B2B, no, there is no do not call list. But a B2C, you will get a list for DNCL, which is you cannot call them. And then you got the Canadian Marketing Association, CMA. You got Canadian Wireless Telecommunication Association, lots of regulation, partially influencing how we do the marketing. And then you have the Mobile Marketing Association. These are the regulatory groups in Canada. And one more thing That was called online behavior advertisement, which is called OBA, or Digital Advertisement Alliance of Canada, DAAC. And then you have Pepedia, which is if you take any courses in financial financial advisor or into insurance, you will have few exams on Pepedia, a few questions. And Pepedia is the Privacy Act, Canadian anti-spam legislation, or CASL. And it's about that you usually, when you do email, now if you go to a website, you see a request for cookies, accepting cookies. In the old days, the website comes in, cracking you, take your information, and start advertising you. Now you have to give them the permission by clicking OK. It's a cookies. This Pepedia is much more sophisticated in Europe, and give a big lots of IT companies had to put lots of effort to adjust according to European Pepedia, Canadian Pepedia, and American Pepedia. So when you go on site from Canada, the Pepedia regulation and the cookies acceptance is different than if you're in the Western Europe or European Union. But the Canadian is very similar to European. The American is a little bit less sophisticated for the Pepedia, where these cookies usually come to your system and start tracking you. This is what's happened probably in Microsoft when it tells you, well, can you allow us to understand your behavior, to give you a better understanding of how these applications, and to advertise you a better product that fits you. That's part of Pepedia, but now they're asking you to, according to this, asking you for a permission, and all day there were no permission for that. So the environment scan, how you do it, the step, first you collect the fact and identify the trends. And how you do, you gather the data and the information, you build your hypothesis, or you prove your hypothesis, then you conduct a competitive review, and then you do the cluster, which is information into the facts and trends. The second step, what you do is to determine the impact that this fact, trend, will have on the business. So after here, when you build your hypothesis and you prove it, you check on the validity and reliability, and whether there is a positive correlation or a negative correlation. I think you took this, some of it in the marketing research. And what's the amount of positive correlation or negative correlation? Let's assume the positive correlation between buying a car and income. And if the person increases income $1,000 or $10,000 per year, definitely he'll buy a brand new car. But if his income increased $2,000 per year, he would have a second-hand car. These are all information that you can analyze the external trend and determine their impact. Then you do a brainstorming, evaluate, and implement ideas that meet the business objective. Your marketing, you always do the brainstorming, evaluate, and implement the alternative. So when you do a marketing campaign, you follow whether it's giving you a positive result or adjusting, or you need to do some adjustment, and where this adjustment is needed in order to give a maximum positive result. So by now we finish the chapter. I think I wish you a good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.